In this experiment, we are going to look at precipitation reactions. Now, in precipitation reactions, we will have two soluble salts. In this case, you can see one is barium chloride and sodium sulphate. So this is barium chloride in this test tube, and this is sodium sulphate. Okay, now first of all, we must make a solution of these two salts. So first, let's make a solution of this salt. Now we'll make sure that all the salt actually dissolves completely into it. And you can see now the salt is completely dissolved. There's no residue. It's a complete clear solution. And when a salt dissolves in water, this solution is now called an aqueous solution. Okay? Because aqua means water, so it's dissolved in water, so it's called an aqueous solution. Now, we'll take the sodium sulphate and we'll do the same thing. We'll dissolve it into some water, and then we'll make a clear solution out of it. So now you see you have the little residue at the bottom. Let this completely dissolve. Now you can see this is also completely dissolved. There's no residue. Now, in a precipitation reaction, two soluble salt solutions will form an insoluble salt. Okay. Now in this case, this is barium chloride and sodium sulphate, and we are going to mix them. And when we mix them, the ions will be interchanged. So you'll have barium sulphate and sodium chloride. Now barium sulphate is a white precipitate. Now let's pour this in and we'll see what happens. Now you'll see a white insoluble precipitate of barium sulphate is going to form, and the barium sulphate will settle down because it's dense at the bottom, and the sodium chloride solution will remain on top. Now we'll just leave this for a few minutes and then we'll see the effect, but you can clearly see that there's a white solid precipitate which is formed inside. So from two soluble salts, we get one insoluble salt which is barium sulphate and a soluble salt which is sodium chloride. Now if I want to obtain a pure sample of barium sulphate, I will filter the solution, remove the sodium chloride, and then wash the barium sulphate with distilled water and then dry it out. So I'll get a pure salt solution of barium sulphate. Okay. Now let's just keep this for a while and let's see what happens after 5 minutes. Now after 5 minutes, what you can see is there's a clear white precipitate of barium sulphate at the bottom, and on top there's sodium chloride solution. Now this will become even more clear after some time, after all the precipitate really settles down. Okay, so here you have sodium chloride and here you have barium sulphate. So in this reaction, what happens is two aqueous solutions, one of barium chloride and the other of sodium sulphate, both are soluble in water. When we mix them, the ions will interchange and it will form a white precipitate of barium sulphate and sodium chloride. Barium sulphate is down here, sodium chloride solution is on top. So the barium chloride is insoluble, and this is called precipitation, where two aqueous salt solutions will form a solid salt which is insoluble.